what happens in the classroom stays goes onto the internet, obviously. Sawadee Krap and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod Mindful Media and Communication. And today, semester recap time. So it's basically just me ranting a little bit about, hence, the very chill, if you're watching the video, the chill posture right now. Let me even open like one of my serious buttons here. Because it's about decompressing. I was grading before I was pressing record here, and it just shut off basically. I had to stop because I don't want to grade if I'm not in a good mindset, if I'm not like fit and stuff. So because it needs to be fair and everything, of course. So I just stopped. I was like, okay, I need a quick break. Got to bed and I just passed out. It always happens at the end of the semester that the body goes like, yep, you push through the semester, because so far, knocking on wood, I'm usually not getting sick during the semester or like burning out or whatever. But right after the semester, the body goes like, yep. And that just happened. So I was like, okay, let me record this episode before my body takes like even more days off. So I planned to have like a very cool cold open, because I usually do this on the Funky Pod, right? But I was like, another semester down, we had triumphs, we had disasters, which is true. But I also saw lots of students like looking at me with their souls visiting another place. Like sometimes you think, and I just had it with a colleague today actually, like you think you're doing well, you're like, guys, I'm telling you something super interesting right now. Just listen to me for 5 minutes. I'm gonna make sense of it. Look at this here and this here. Then you bring it together, and then it's like, and you're all excited, and the students go like, yeah, that's probably some of this soft quitting by Gen Z that we hear of a lot. We had essays written by ChatGPT, obviously, that didn't even bother to remove like the as an AI language model disclaimer. I cannot have an opinion, but and just overall the uni classroom is just no longer like a place of just learning. I think it's you're gonna hold against me, but it's a crime scene. It's a crime scene for the murder of attention spans right now. And I mean it when I say that. Why, I'm going to share in a second. And that's not even the point where I'm hating, because it's just a sign of the times. And you have to adjust. So I'm not even hating on the attention span thing. I'm just saying that's happening. It's just observation. So here's to me ranting and to sharing what worked, what broke, and what am I still recovering from actually. So let's debrief the whole thing. And usually when I do this podcast, right, the Funky Pod, I pick a current topic that happens in the media somewhere. I talked about the PR disaster with Liverpool, or the communication disaster at Liverpool FC, things like this. And then I try to find 3 media or comms theories that relate to it, so that I can explain a little bit, so that in case you're listening, you actually also learn a little bit, right? So I figured, can I try this today when I do my rant/debrief as well? And I actually tried. So, because one of the theories I think fits here for myself while ranting is the burnout society, right? The burnout burnout itself is like a big thing. And I'm not saying it just because I'm tired, I'm burned out, by no means. But in the burnout society, the concept, you have those 2 subjects that you discussed, right? You have the achievement subject, right? And you have the obedience subject. And I think that's actually very interesting in this regard, because my take on this is that students aren't lazy. They might be the ones that are burned out as well. If you look at the burnout society by Han, right? He says that in the burnout society, that we move from a society of should, right, to a society of can. So from obedience to achievement, which, if you just look at it, you're like, yeah, doers, cool. But that's then what also leads to the soft quitting that I mentioned in the beginning, that students might just be exhausted by the pressure to always be on, always be productive, always be positive, always be self-optimizing 24/7. And that might lead to some disengagement. And this disengagement might even just be like the biological defense to the system that demands you to be on 24/7, that demands infinite output. It's not just us at uni that demand that. Their whole life demands it. You have to be on all the time. Or even if you're not studying, learning, working, like in order to connect with your friends, you also have to be online all the time and share stuff all the time. That's just the way it is. So I actually think that while I'm frustrated at times when I'm in the class and I think I'm presenting a concept in a fun way, and I don't get the engagement I was hoping for, or maybe even expected, I think that's not just because students are lazier these days. It's because maybe they are just way more overstimulated and burned out in a sense of always being on. And I think that's something we also have to consider. Because we say like, okay, you can just use this, use that, use ChatGPT for your homework. I don't use it anyway. So, and then we give them more homework, for example, more assignments or things like that, right? I saw Aaron talk about it the other day, like who's a great follow, by the way, if you're in academia or if you're a student looking for insights in uni. Look up Aaron, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, sorry. Prof. Aaron from, I want to say, no, not Duke, Prof. Aaron from Duke. And he said, well, expectations rise, right? So as the tools are getting better, expectations rise. So once we got Google, we expected everyone to Google first before they hand in their homework, right? Sure. Same thing now. I expect you're using ChatGPT or AI for your assignments anyways. So I'm expecting them to be perfect. And so we're just adding to that, which could also lead to more burnout, for example, all right? So I think that's something we really have to consider. And I'll explain in a second how that affected my classes in particular. I also think that we can look at car though, and I was kind of happy that I made that work, the connection here. So pat on the back. And Play-Doh, because usually I do this in one of my second year classes. So I was like, hey, cool, I can actually relate it to my podcast this time. Because you know that car talks about what he calls the shallows, I explained, and Play-Doh, right? Okay. So the concept here I want to pick is what we call cognitive atrophy, right? According to Carr, and Plato called it, and I had to look at it, the in German, I would pronounce it differently than in English, sorry. Nevertheless, the take is the same, German or English. So, and I actually used this one in my new media study classes as an argument. So Plato famously said, apparently it's attributed to him, but then I know there are disputes, but let's believe Wikipedia for a second. That Plato said that writing leads to like writing will influence us in a way that we will not remember. That like the English quote is like, writing leads to the debasement of memory or something along those lines. So basically, if everybody can write, we forget to remember. How ironic. And Carr, building on that, he feared that Google would kill deep reading because it can just Google summaries and can get like the feedback quickly. And what we now know is that AI kills synthesis, for example, right? Wait, before you turn off, like AI hater, wait. So I think it really depends on like when we're using AI and when we're seeing it being used in the classroom. And I wouldn't say that students are cheating with AI, because they're not, but they're outsourcing that neural process of thinking because it's faster. So they're just offloading their cognition to a machine, which from an academic point of view, you're like, why would you do that? You're here to think. But back to the first point, like if you're so overloaded with work and with tasks and things you have to do, you're just looking like, what can I outsource the fastest, the easiest? And a uni assignment seems to be the easy thing to outsource, I guess, right? So we know that if you don't struggle with that sentence, with understanding something, you're not learning the concept, a new concept, right? Because struggle leads to understanding. But if you're in the shoes of the person that's about to struggle, and you can be like, yeah, but I can outsource the struggle. Why would I struggle? Yo, ChatGPT, why wouldn't you do it, right? So one more time, let's not blame the audience here. Let's not blame the students, because if I would have had AI in uni, my thesis would have looked different, probably. Let's be honest, right? So it's easy to say AI this, AI that. And I think those 2 points that I just mentioned, they go hand in hand. And burned out, and you're trying to offload the cognitive stress. And if AI helps you with that, you're happy to do it. And some will understand why that shouldn't work, why that you shouldn't be doing that, because then you're not learning. Some will not. But that's always the case. That's been the same case when with Google came around. You shouldn't just copy Google answers or Wikipedia answers and so on. And some learned it and some didn't, right? Last thing, and then I go into like my personal sharing, but I'm hesitating for a second. But no, I prepared it, so I'm going to share it with you. I think if you look at Bauman, right, and he talked about liquid modernity, and there's liquid life/fragile bonds that's been discussed in that approach. I thought about it from an attendance point of view. Like, why is attendance so weird? Like, why do some students not seem to care at all? Why do group projects fall apart? And I see group projects falling apart now more frequently than maybe a few years ago. And if I take the concept of liquid modernity by Bauman, and look into like how it's been suggested that all commitments that you have are temporary and loose. So students treat the class more like a Tinder date, if you will. So they're like, yep, I'm looking at different options. I keep all my options open until the very last second. And then I'm going to go with whatever works best. Because they're terrified of being like tied down to a deadline or a group, a responsibility, you name it. I do think that that's something that I also see right now, for example. So right now, we're in the process of where our 4th year students have to get into internships. So next semester, they have to 2 internships. And then they have to approach an internship advisor, like one of the professors, be like, hey, can you be my internship advisor? I'm going to do this. Your expertise fits here. And it's every year, it feels like they're pushing it later and later and later. Let's see, say 3, 4, 5 years ago, as of the time of recording, December 1st right now, I would have already had like probably 15 students reaching out asking if I can be their advisor. And be like, yeah, I usually only take 10. Okay, now December 1st, 2025, I have like 5 students reaching out. And I talked to lots of students just asking, hey, how's it going? And they still haven't reached out to anyone. They're not sure about how to find their internships or like where to ask. So it's like, yeah, keeping your options open until the very, very, very last moment seems to be something that's worth exploring, I think. And that explains also like why group projects fail a lot, for example, while attendance is like fluctuating, because you're deciding last minute whether or not to show up, whether or not to do something, whether or not to tell someone about it, and so on. So, okay, but see, so I tried before I ran, I tried to do the same thing I usually do here in the pod, like finding some theories, and I think they do make sense. I had lots of fun, like jotting it down while preparing for the episode, but I also want to rant, and I also want to just like share a few ideas, because some things worked very well, some things, well, they did not. Before I go into what worked, what didn't, I have a few more notes on like what I wanted to get off my chest, because one thing that I really see a lot these days is like, depending on which uni you go to. So, and I work at a few different unis, so you don't know which one I'm talking about. Not the uni you see me at the most, because that one's awesome. Head of media studies right here, so study with us. But at some unis, it's more seen like a customer service uni, like a customer service place. Like students act like customers. Like, I pay for this, so give it to me. And I'm like, whoa. You're paying for the chance to learn from me right now. Like, yo, don't get it twisted. But this is something that I struggle with at a few places. Again, not at the place where I usually worked. Those students, I mean, I worked there for a reason, because I like the students. I like the mindset there. But at other places, I've seen it happen quite often. And I'm like, yo, you shouldn't be here with a learner mindset rather than with like I'm a customer mindset and you serve me everything on a silver platter. Because I think when education becomes a product, professor becomes a service worker, and then you're like, okay, the customer's always right, so sure, yes, here's your A, please take it. Like, what are we doing, right? So that's one thing I saw at a few places, and I understand why, because they struggle to make money and so on. So yeah, you understand why. I also think that, like, I mean, there's always like some sort of PTSD when it comes to group projects. Like, there's like this microcosm when it comes to group projects, and you always see like different archetypes. I actually like wrote on a few, and you've probably seen the same. Like, when I look at group projects, there's always like the ghost, the one that never replies to anything, even if you're like in a WhatsApp chat, not WhatsApp, in a MS Teams chat with the professor. Still then like nothing unless you tag that person. There's the control freak who rewrites everything right until 4 a.m. and stuff like this. And then there's the passenger who shows up for presentation, reads everything on the slide wrong, and just sticks to the phone because that's where the notes are, right? I think that's everywhere. It's always been like that. But it's not just school. And that's the thing that's interesting to me, because if you let things like this fly, I mean, that just repeats and reproduces itself in the workplace as well. And that's why students hate me, because I'm like, as soon as you look at your phone with notes, we're done. Notes in particular, for a 10-minute, 15-minute presentation, you don't need to have notes. And if you have your slides, and you should go off those, right? So, or you have presenter notes or something. That's there, but you don't need to look at like and I'm a bit particular about this, maybe because we're the faculty of communication. So I was like, I'm like, you should be, communicating with your body language too. But still, that's one thing. Rant on, rant off. But I do think that if we don't counter such small things at uni, then it replicates in real life, right? So why not iron it out while we can? That's just one thing that I see a lot happening in group work, and I always wonder, like, why can we not make group work better? And some groups work amazing, and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool what you guys are doing, and some do not. And then there's always the question: do you just randomize groups? How do you intervene? Do you intervene with every little thing? Do you let them try to figure things out first? When's the right point of intervention, and so on? So that's always the struggle when it comes to lots of group work, right? And also, like, of course, how do you grade it at the end? Do you listen to peer evaluation? How much do you weigh peer evaluation? All those things. So group work's great because it gets you ready for the real world. Group work sucks because it's a pain in the ass to grade and to evaluate. And oh my gosh. But please do, this is a safe space, so please do also rant about your group work experiences. Because please tell me I'm not alone in this. We also have the hopeful bit at the end, though. The glitch. Because tech fails all the time, right? We're so tech heavy with everything. I mean, slides, presentations, and whatnot. And tech always fails. So sometimes I have it in one class per semester at least. If we do like a no tech class. So students come and I'm like, yup. Oh no. The technology doesn't work today. Look at this. The projector's not working. Look at this. There's no electricity here. Oh no. There's no aircon in the room. Seems like we have to go out today. Oh no, what shall we do? So I have classes like this a lot. Like no tech class ones, but I have other surprise classes a lot as well, where I just try to get the students out of the comfort zone, out of the classroom, because as we know in education, you have shout out to the D school, where I was able to do like a very cool like a course over like a year or 2 years or something that was amazing. So I'm still drawing lots from that. Stanford D school, you're awesome. Different levels, different educational levels, right? And one of the levels is the spatial level as well. So if you change the space, the environment in which students are learning, then the impact will be bigger, because they're not in the normal setting where they study all the time, like 2 or 3 classes a day or whatever. You change the space, the setting, so then their minds will open up as well. So that's what I try here and there as well. You can change the levels with like different tokens, different learning spaces, materials, constraints and whatnot. But like space is usually a good one for me, because not many other professors do that. So don't steal it from me. So that's why it stands out and like adds a little bit more of creativity to it. So that's a sharing of like what usually works quite well, and it's very nice. What also works a lot these days for me is, and I'm very happy that this works, peer study classes. I'm hesitating again. You know it by now when I hesitate. There's something in the back of my head, because it's not just you teach your friends or this group teaches something, because that doesn't work, right? But it's like guided. So it's actually, okay, I give a specific example, which was one of my favorite examples this semester. So we had like a collab, a combined workshop with like my class, digital strategies, and one of our partner unis from Germany, shout out. And so the German students came in, and they expected like a workshop on like digital strategies, understanding digital, blah, blah, whatever. And so before that happened, like at the beginning of the semester, I knew that. I'm like, hey, I need a student team, one of your as a project team. You will run that. I'm not teaching them anything. I'm just going to sit back, relax, chat with the German professor, eat some popcorn, and see what you're doing. And that's still the normal part. But then it was like all guided to that point. And by guided, I mean the constraint was related to digital strategies. And then just like lots of feedback. So meaning I forced them to check in with me once a week at least. Doesn't sound like something crazy to you, hopefully, but especially here, also, it's not very common to like always check in with your professor all the time, right? Especially like we did a bit more informal, but still professional, meaning you don't have to be like, oh, professor, but you have to tell me once a week what's happening. We can have to check in online. We can meet at a cafe on campus, so you don't have to come all the way to my office. Whatever, meet in the canteen with your group. Anything goes. But you have to work. So there's this sense of like it can be fun and chill, but you still have to get stuff done. It's not that common yet here, I would say, like in Southeast Asia, for example. So that added something to it, and then the responsibility that they had. I'm like, hey, there are like 20 German students coming in, 3 professors. You're going to do the whole thing. So this responsibility added some pressure, but also like, hey, we're working on something real, which was cool. And again, the weekly feedback made sure that they're staying on track. They shared ideas. I said, no, those ideas are a bit too playful maybe for students from a different country/culture. They're not used to that. Try something a bit more in the middle maybe. So, well, back and forth, but mainly the student team did everything, which is very cool. Responsibilities, no rocket science. You're doing this too probably all the time if you're an educator. Just sharing, this still works, and this still works for this generation as well, which makes me very happy. Things that don't work, for example, hand in hand, like the other kind of peer teaching is like I told in another class, I said, okay, here's a syllabus. Each team picks one topic. You prepare this topic. You teach your peers. Didn't work. Work kinda didn't work well, because all the presentations were pretty surface level. Even so, I said like check in with me, but I didn't force a check-ins, because that's also part of learning, right? So I'm not just teaching you the topic. I teach you communication and all those things as well. So there was more to it. So yeah, that didn't really work out that well, because it was quite surface level. So sometimes giving teams freedom works quite well. Sometimes giving teams freedom doesn't work, and you have to find the right balance, so to speak, I want to say. Another great thing that worked really, really cool, really well was we had a hackathon, like a huge hackathon and like a big shopping mall in Bangkok, which was amazing. A big tech space. We opened it up for all unis and even high schools around the country, Bangkok mostly in this case, of course. It was the first time that we opened it up to external collaborators. It was amazing. So learning from this is, and again, organized by students. So really like hats off to the student team that did it. Sometimes we clashed and our MS Teams messages weren't as friendly as they could have been at like 1 a.m. in the morning when we needed to get stuff done, but we got it done. So respect and props to the student team who also learned the hard way that sometimes when you work in that industry or like when you're like in a event org team, you sometimes get a message on Saturday at 1 a.m. and you have to do it. You have to get it done until Monday. This will also happen to you when you work in your marketing agencies later. Just saying, you're welcome. That being prepared for that. But the learning most collaboration opening up is something that really was really cool. I think especially still here, it doesn't happen that often, unfortunately, because so we try to keep everything to ourselves. Like, why would we invite others? Right? We keep it to ourselves so that we enhance our standing. I think we still got to be, especially with universities, I think, yes, there are MOUs, there are like surface level collaborations, but like those, sorry for the buzzwords, those grassroots collaborations, like for events, for workshops, like I think there should be more of those because we don't need to have like a fancy MOU sign. And I know, yes, we have, but sign those things is one thing. Actually doing just individual projects just together is a different thing. And the students just benefit from it. Sometimes I think we should focus more on the student benefit rather than on the KPIs. That's what I'm saying. I hope none of my superiors hears that. What else? Well, yeah, I'm still one of the few, I think, professors out there, at least here, that says, yes, use AI, use ChatGPT, go ahead, do it. So if you expect me to hate on it for 20 minutes here, and I don't, you just need to use it smarter. If I see that you just did it with ChatGPT and it just sounds lame and boring and doesn't add any depth or value, then you're still getting a bad grade. So, I mean, you save time, grade's still bad. If you're writing it yourself and you're adding lots of value, great. If you're using ChatGPT and it adds lots of value, also great. Like, because if you do it like this, then I assume you had to give it the right prompt so that it actually adds value to it. So I'm not mad at it. I actually read all the assignments, so it's totally fine with me. I rather read lots of good assignments than like lots of crappy ones. Again, expectations, as Prof. Aaron said, just increasing. So sorry about that, but expectations are now up here. Last thing on this, maybe, let's see. I'm not sure. I think last thing on this, reflection papers. Right? So I work a lot with reflection papers, and reflection very often turns into recap/reviews. So I actually actively state, hey, please don't, this is not a recap, this is a reflection. Like, what did you learn? What progress did you personally make? How did the way you think change? All those things. And that's something that I still have to explain here and there, which is a bit surprising given that you would assume that someone who comes to uni knows that already. But again, no problem. I explain it. We do it once or twice as an assignment, and then for the end of semester assignment, it's no problem anymore. Okay, yes, here, just the last thing I wanted to say is very interesting to me is how different uni styles, because I'm lucky enough, and I really appreciate it, that different unis like trust me with education, so that I can actually have classes as like a guest lecturer. Sometimes here and there I get invited sometimes, which is really cool, and I appreciate it a lot because, I mean, you trust me with educating the students, so thank you. It's very interesting to see that there are so many different styles in education there. Like some are like super strict with, like, for example, I mean, sure, attendance is one thing, with dress codes, for example, still a thing in some places, with how you address the professors, like just it's very interesting to see. I'm curious to see how it impacts education, if there's like a direct relation to like academic performance, creativity. That would be something I would love to see some actual literature on. Because it's not like in high school here in Thailand, you have to wear this uniform and it has to be that long, but it's like some unis expect you to wear a uniform and some unis expect you to address professors in a certain way, while others it's like, yo, be liberal, you figure things out by yourself, right? So that would be interesting to see. I would love to hear that. But that's maybe for next semester recap that's coming in 6 months. Right now, I'm going to pass out for a few more hours and then we're jumping right back into grading and into preparing the next semester, which will be awesome again. I already have a few cool ideas. I hope I can pull them off. Trying to take students out of the classroom, out of the comfort zone, out of like context sometimes as well. Last time, one of the classes I will have next semester again is called the Art of Storytelling. Looking forward to that one. Last time I invited like a pro wrestling guy to my storytelling class. Let's see if we can make it even more weird this upcoming semester, even more confusing, more surprising. Until then, let me know if you want to rant. What happened this semester? What were the ups, what were the downs? What worked well? What didn't work at all? Shout out. Let me know. Oh, I forgot. Oh, yeah, okay. I have to share this. Oh, before I end. In one of my classes, I work with clients and like digital strategy. So I have student groups, 5 students or something in a group, and they have to work with real world clients creating a digital strategy. This could be like a uni, this could be like a SME, whatever. So one of the teams for the first time ever actually got fired from the client. I'm not going to spill any more details, but wow. So this was something that also was very interesting. So we had to figure out like what to do. This happened like midway through the semester. So then we had to assign like a kind of like a replacement project, which they rocked. So getting fired by the client really like set them straight, like, oh, we really messed up. And then they worked really well until the end of the semester. Nevertheless, the firing off by the client will also reflect in the overall grade, of course. So this is a very challenging part, very interesting. Maybe I can share more of that in the next Funky Pod education episode. That I had to share. Now you let me know what happened this semester. Shout out in the comments, either here on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen, social media at FunkyPod. Really curious to hear like your successes, your failures. Shout out. Until then, stay safe, take care, stay sane, don't go crazy while grading, enjoy the holidays, and we are back with the next episode, which is not teaching then, which is then something more current again, where I look into current pop culture and try to make sense of it, maybe already Christmas themed. Let's see. Themed. Until then, take care. We talk soon. Sawadee Cup.